Hello, welcome to our Wednesday afternoon live stream. I'm Heidi Priebe.
And I'm Denzel Mensah.
And today we're talking about a topic that's probably the most asked question in most MBTI circles, which is what about type and compatibility? So if I'm X, Y, or Z type, which type should I date? Which type should my best friend be? How am I going to get along with this type or this type? And it is a really interesting topic with a lot of different theories within it. So it almost seems like everyone in the MBTI world has their own theory on type compatibility. So today we're kind of here to share our own ideas, answer questions that you guys might have, and just kind of give you an overview of, I guess, what we think about the topic, and hopefully have a conversation about what you guys think.
Yeah. And make sure y'all leave questions and all of that. By the way, sorry that we're a little bit late, technical difficulties. But yeah, we can just jump right into it. I guess I'll start off by saying that there's just like many factors that go into type. Like a lot of people are always looking for their ideal type in that way. And well, I guess we could zoom out first and just by saying that MBTI was not made or it should not be used, in my opinion, to pick out who your perfect partner is, but more to help you understand the partner that you've chosen. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that although honestly speaking, I personally believe that there are some types that work well together than other types. Like they just naturally vibe, they just naturally like flow together, stuff like that. There there shouldn't be like you shouldn't box it together. Like if you're an ESFJ with an INTJ and then you see online that, oh my goodness, our types are like the worst types that are supposed to be together, then like and you all of a sudden like start like looking at your relationship in like that bad of a way, or you break up with that person for that reason. I think that that's like how you shouldn't use MBTI, because now it goes back to like the whole like zodiac thing where it's like, oh my goodness, you're a Sag, oh I can't be with you, or like like I think that when you understand type, then you are able to now understand the person that you're with, the person that you're going to be with, and they can understand you well enough to now, like, depending on how much you two love each other, how much you two are attracted to each other, how much you two are willing to like work things out, you can learn enough about that person to be able to cater to them in the way that's necessary. But yeah, then like I said, which we'll probably get into later, there are certain types that I've noticed, and maybe Heidi has noticed as well, that naturally naturally get along better. But even with them, there's still like many factors such as like values and gender, upbringing, development, and even like Enneagram. So that's my like icebreaker for this conversation.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. I think it's undeniable. I think that there are certain types.
Oh, great. Heidi froze, I think. Unless if that's my computer. Jamila.
Yeah, so I think that there are definitely certain types that, based on just the way that their cognitive functions are stacked and positioned, are going to have a more natural ease of understanding with other types on average. Not all the time, but on average. It's kind of like saying two people who speak the same language. It's like there's going to be a better ease of communication between them than two people who speak different languages.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to see eye to eye on everything. So
right.
you can have two English speakers and they're going to be able to understand each other better than an English speaker and a German speaker, but there could still be like a plethora of different values and other things that kind of impact whether or not they get along. And that's kind of how I look at type. Certain people are going to have a more natural ease of speaking your language, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be differences within that. And that also doesn't mean that sometimes you're not going to, maybe you're going to meet like a German speaker hypothetically, which in this metaphor would mean like someone who isn't necessarily lined up with your cognitive function stacking in a way that makes sense, but you have so many similar values, similar goals, whatever it is, that you're going to be able to get along. You're going to be able to kind of bridge that communication gap with other things. So it can, I guess what I'm saying is there's like, yes, there are certain trends, but I wouldn't use them as hard rules because they're not hard rules. And there's so many other factors that it's almost just like, here's the basis of how well you might understand each other, but don't take it as like the only rule. Like I hear people say sometimes, I'll only date people like if they, like I make them tell me their MBTI type on a first date, and then I won't date them if they're a certain type. And I'm like, probably like 90% of those people are mistyped, and you might be mistyped. So you might be writing off your perfect match, like because of something that someone got wrong. Like I actually know like one couple who he's an ISTJ and she's an ESFP, which in theory, if you're going with like, the overriding type theory, are the perfect match for each other. But she tests as ENFP, and when she found that out, she freaked out and was like, oh, but he's my 4-letter opposite. Like, how are we going to make it work? But it's like, no, well, you tested wrong, and actually you're with your theoretical perfect match, so like chill out. But that's one of the main reasons why I think you really shouldn't weight it that heavily from the get-go, is because you don't know if one of you is just wrong about your types. And there's, I'd say, like more of a chance that one person is than isn't.
Yeah, that was perfectly said. I think that those are really important factors to even have play in, because as you said, like we're always talking about like how many mistypes, but it's really just that common, guys, so that there's so many people that are mistyped so often. And you see them and we're not going to go through those stories, but it's like, I know an ESFP who strongly believes and tells everyone that she's ENFJ. And one day, I'll strategically find a way to like sit down and like explain to her why, all of that. But like from looking at that, like if you like just looking at that, you could see how many other people may be confused about their type. And then they go online and then they're looking at, oh, well, this is supposed to be my ideal partner, but I'm with this person now. Like it's kind of like a confirmation bias in a way, because now you're believing that, oh, well, this person's supposed to be my partner, so now you're trying to make it work, which could be a good thing in that case. But how many people are like, oh, well, this person's not supposed to be my partner, we're supposed to like not match up, and now all of a sudden you're thinking like every single small conflict that you guys have, it's like, oh, it's because we're not ideal partners. I bet if I was with the ESTP, then he would understand. And it's like, no, so I guess like this has been make sure that you don't misuse this compatibility. Don't misuse MBTI's compatibility like helpfulness, I guess, in that way. But there are ways that you could use it to better understand each other, which I think now we can like probably start diving into, and maybe even mention some of the types that we've seen work, and even some of the types that like I mentioned ESFJ and INTJ. It's like supposedly very well known that those two types aren't supposed to be together, but in actuality, I know 3 ESFJ INTJ couples, and they seem just fine. To be honest, they seem perfectly fine. And one of them is potentially, I know that Beyonce is ESFJ, and the internet, like they say that Jay-Z is like INTJ, but I've been considering, like ISFP.
I don't INTJ.
Yeah, exactly.
I also don't know if I think Beyonce's ESFJ does. I don't know. Sorry, I'm hijacking it. You go.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much just looking, but I know people in real life as well. I know 2 couples at my school. They're both ESFJ, INTJ, and they work out very well. And they know like now about type, but they still work through everything. And I know an ENTP, ISTJ couple. They know like, oh, like we're not the most ideal, and they argue here and there, but it depends on like how much they're willing to like work through it. They're engaged, you're gonna get married, so it all just depends on how much you really want the person, how much work you're trying to put in with that person. So yeah, don't use this as an excuse to not better your relationship or to not give someone a chance.
Yeah, I think so I'm gonna kind of take it back a step and explain first what like the leading theory is on type compatibility, and then explain why I think it doesn't work anymore, even though maybe it once did. So the kind of prevailing theory that's been presented by like a couple different theorists is that you find someone who shares your perceiving preference. So that doesn't mean like P or J, it means N or S. So you take someone who shares either your preference for S or N. So if you're a sensor, you find another sensor. And if you're an intuitive, you find another intuitive. And then you reverse all the other letters in your 4-letter type code. So like an ENFP would be with an INTJ, or it could be, okay, so that's one, or like an ENFJ would be with an INTP. Or there's the theory that you take your dominant and you take someone who has the same letter, but in the inverse as their dominant cognitive function, and then reverse all the other letters. So if you're a dominant FI user, you find a dominant FB user. So if you're an INFP, you find either an ESFJ or an ENFJ. If you're an ENFP, you find either an INFJ or an INTJ. And I figure out, again, who speaks your language. And I think it also worked really well maybe like 50 years ago when we had a more dynamic relationship structure in society. So when when the MBTI was being invented, it was kind of like the baby boomer generation who are all like post-war era settling down and having families. That was what most people were doing. And I think that way of determining pairing actually works really well for like your kind of nuclear family dynamic. If you're looking for a partner to raise children with who just kind of balances out what your weaknesses might be in parenting or in lifestyle design, but who shares your perception so that you see eye to eye, but you're able to balance each other's weaknesses. And I actually think it does work really well in that case. So I think, within that narrow scope, that's a good way to look at it. But it's 2018 now, and not everyone's looking for a partner to raise kids with anymore. So
Sure.
Like from personal example, like I'm not someone who wants children or a family. So I like to date like partner in crime types. So I like people who have extroverted perceiving functions. So I always look for like EXXP types, because that's the kind of relationship I want. So I think the most important thing is to determine what kind of relationship you want to have. And then from there, look at what types are compatible to that. Like, do you want to settle down? Are you looking for something long-term that's stable? Then here are the types that might work well with your type within that scope. Or are you looking to just kind of like have fun and explore the world and find someone who wants to come like live an exciting life with you? Then here's the kind of partners you might want to look at in that scope. So I think you just need to think hard about what you want out of a given relationship. And you should write off any types, just that's something you should think about first.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you just said. I think that it's incredibly important to know what you want and what you're looking for, because two people of the same type could be wanting different things. And so, so if an ENFP like Heidi wants someone who will explore more and like not be as rooted, stuff like that, then they might want another perceiver. So they might want another NE user, or like even an SE user, things like that. But if an ENFP feels like, okay, I'm too like exploratory, I want to like just like relax, I want to like learn how to like have like a more stable type of life and just explore within that area, whatever the case may be, then they might want like a judger type who like is more rooted in that sense. So like I said, like a lot of different factors play into it. But when you're going like with going off of some of the theories that Heidi has mentioned, I've heard like a lot of those theories as well, and I've seen a lot of those to work. The ones that I've been most seeing, like the pattern that I've been seeing in my personal life, is the two middle functions that we have. So like for mine, my two middle functions are NI and then SE. So my auxiliary is NI and then my tertiary is SE. And I've been seeing that a lot of other ENFJs that I know, like both online and even some characters, they naturally end up with ISFPs who I don't like. I believe like what it is because the SE and NI axis that they have in the middle, like they share that. So then the ISFP's auxiliary appeals to the ENFJ's tertiary, and then the ENFJ's auxiliary appeals to the ISFP's tertiary in that way. And then I look at a lot of INFJ and ESTP relationships, which usually would like surprise people because it's like, well, why would a dominant intuitive be with a dominant sensor, stuff like that. And you would think that they don't work, but I see a lot of INFJ ESTP relationships, and it surprises me. And I realize, like, oh, it's the same thing with that middle axis of TIFE, only like reversed, and even with ENTPs and INFJs. And then you have the ENFP and the INTJ where they have that TEFI axis, and it's kind of like reversed in that sense. And ESFP, ISTJ, stuff like that. So I think that that's something that I've seen very, very, very often when it comes to like real life partners, and I've been like talking to people and like asking them about their relationships. A lot of them that don't even know about type, and I'll just ask them like, oh, so like, can you like tell me some things about your marriage or about your relationship? Like, what are some things that you like struggle with and all of that? And I've seen those two middle functions really play like a big part. But just like Heidi said, I also feel like you could go with the route of you want somebody who has like the not necessarily the opposite, but the alternative of your dominant function. So if you're an FE user, then you might want an FI user so they can like cover your blind spots in that way. And it really does just go back to like it depends on what you're looking for, what exactly you want. But at the end of the day, like I think that Aruna asked like about arranged marriages earlier. And what I would say to that is MBTI compatibility could work with arranged marriage, but only like with how we said like before, as in they would. I feel like any relationship, yeah, just about any relationship could work if the two are willing to work together to understand each other well enough. And so if both partners are willing to understand like the other partner's MBTI type and how they think and all of that and make certain sacrifices, I think you're back. I think you froze again. So sad. Hey.
All right, cool.
I was just waiting for myself to go off, but oh, they're trying to ask me to sing. No, thank you. Okay, I think you froze again. Hey. All right. So, yeah, I think, well, I don't really remember where I was at anymore. That's fine. You can go on from now. You froze again. So, yeah, I think I'm going to text Heidi and I'll see if
I'm David Bowder, CEO of SPASIGMA. Every day, each of us is surrounded by a great diversity of people, and indeed, personalities. Some people we find it very easy to relate to. Others, not so much so. Our program exists to help you make sense of your own personality, as well as the diverse personalities around you, to help you improve both your personal and professional lives. Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." We'll teach you to understand how to reach the diverse personalities around you, to communicate with them in a way that integrates who you are with who they are. So enough talk about all this. Welcome to SPASIGMA's Personality Quotient PQ program. Enjoy the journey.